Welcome to the channel and this new series for Europa Universalis 4 with no DLC. I'm aware that many people do not like long introductions, so there will be a timestamp appearing now that will take you to the gameplay if you wish. If you've decided to stay, welcome. Before getting into the objectives of the series, I feel it's necessary to explain the reason why I'm making it. Whilst watching the videos from the PDXCon 2018 coverage, there was a video where a group of directors were talking about various Paradox games. Near the end of that video there was an almost throwaway comment about how Paradox liked to think that new players would get a good experience even when playing without the DLC, and that was quite an interesting observation. Now, someone who had missed the initial release of EU4 and then has been subsequently deterred by the sheer long list of DLC on Steam, that came to me as a bit of a challenge that I felt like taking up. So what I did is I went out and bought the game, and the idea was to start a series back during the summer, but then the announcement that Dharma was going to integrate estates back into the base game postponed the project until September. After the September release, it has taken about 20 hours of gameplay to reach a point where I feel it's possible to make a series from a new player perspective, and I think that's something I want to emphasize. I'm not pretending to be an expert in this game by any way whatsoever, because there are people who have played over 1,000 hours, and you read them on the forums and they say they're still learning and they don't regard themselves as an expert, and to me that is pretty mind-blowing. So the objective of this series is to share my learning experience with you guys and provide maybe a basic getting started guide for new players who want to get in and learn the game. And the final point is playing without all the DLC worth it? Is it interesting enough? Does it present a challenge, or is the game difficult to play without the additional DLC support? Introduction over. I think it's time to get down to the objectives of this series, and this will consist of 3 parts. Starting with this video, the first part will consist of a short let's play as the Ottomans. Now, I'm aware that a lot of experienced players or people who know a little bit about EU4 will say, why play the Ottomans? It's boring, it's the simplest faction in the game. Well, from the perspective of somebody who's totally new to EU4 or even Paradox games, I think playing the Ottomans has 2 benefits. One, it gives you time to experiment with the interface and the basic mechanics, make plenty of mistakes, and I can assure you that I've made plenty of mistakes during my initial 20 hours. I think it's also a good way to come to terms with the combat mechanism of EU4. And again, this is more focused at anyone who's never played any Paradox game. I mean, I had the advantage of playing CK2 and Stellaris, so I had a understanding of the Paradox mindset, is probably the best way to say it. But I think anyone who's completely new to Paradox games, I think playing as the Ottomans is quite important, and that's the process that I want to demonstrate. Now, it will be a short series, and then after that we will move on to the second part of this series, and that is playing either as Portugal or Castile, because I think playing as one of these 2 factions is a good way to learn the colonial game. I know absolutely nothing about the colonial game, so once we get to stage 2 we will be in uncharted waters. Also, I think especially playing as Castile, that gives you an opportunity to get some depth in relation to the diplomatic game. And for any of you guys who watch my channel and play mainly Total War, the diplomatic game is very deep in EU4, and it's something you do need to learn. It's not something you can ignore like you would in Total War. This step is going to be a relatively short series. It's not going to be a full-length campaign, because in the final part what I want to do is move on to a full-length campaign, and it'll probably be France or England, although my inclination is, because I come from the UK, that it will be England. And I think that's about it for the core objectives of what I want to do in this series. Before moving on to the campaign map, I think it's important to make the point that the intended audience for this series is new players, and especially players who may not have played Paradox games. So if you're an experienced player and you're coming in to see some sparkling min-max gameplay, sorry, you can be a bit disappointed, because Obviously I'm going to be playing without the DLC, so there'll be certain mechanics that will be missing, so it won't be possible to do optimal gameplay even if I wanted to, especially in the context if you are playing with all the DLC. There's also the fact that I am going to be learning the game. As I say, I've only got 20 hours of experience, so there's going to be mistakes. In fact, there's guaranteed to be disasters, but I think that is all part of the process of learning the game. So that's the level that I'm pitching this series at. But on that note, I hope you guys will enjoy it, and feel free to add comments and tell me where I've gone wrong. But be aware that I will most likely block record the videos in this series, so there may be some desync between when you put a comment and maybe I will talk about that concept within the game. So I think that's about it, and I think it's now time to move on to the campaign map. Now, for anybody who's completely new to the game, this is the starting screen where you select the kingdom, faction, whatever you want to call it, you want to play. Now, the three on the left hand side here, highlighted a slight green fringe, hopefully you will be able to see this, represents the three easiest factions which I've already mentioned, the Ottomans, Castile and Portugal, and then to the right there are a number of what you would call suggested kingdoms, but that doesn't mean anything because the map in EU4 is really big, and you can come over here, you can play Ming, you can play right down to tiny little provinces. I mean, if you really want, once you really know the game, you can come down. I mean, you can play Cyprus if you want. I mean it's quite an interesting start. But of course, in this first part, we're going to be playing the Ottomans. The Ottomans are a very powerful faction to start with. You can see they've got a very good leader and a good heir. I think they've got all sorts of interesting traits, although to be honest, some of these traits don't mean anything to me. I'm assuming cavalry combat ability and cost of reducing war exhaustion. I've got an idea what war exhaustion is about. National tax modifier, so you've got all these various attributes in here. We start off with lots and lots of truces with people, and we're also guaranteeing the independence of Ragusa, which I think is somewhere around here. There is that bit there. So it's a fairly easy start, as you can see this area here, but I don't want to talk too much about the campaign, so what I'm going to do now is click play. So here we are. Now what you get is this select game mode. Now game mode is normal mode, iron mode. I'll talk about iron mode first. Iron mode is what you could call a default mode if you're playing by yourself, because as it says down here, achievements cannot be earned in this session. So if I click Iron Man mode, you will see that you can now earn the achievements. So if you want to play, and I would recommend this once you've got a bit of experience, because why not? Let's get the achievements. But you can also see that in order for it to count towards the leaderboard score, you do need to be logged into a Paradox account. Now, as far as I can tell, people tend not to put that much importance in the leaderboard skill. Feel free to contradict me. It's not something that particularly interests me. Now, I'm going to be playing normal mode simply because one of the hazards of recording is that recording software crashes, all sorts of things can go wrong, and that means you can lose key parts of the campaign. So I will be playing this series and all future Let's Plays on normal mode, and I think that's about it, guys. So we just click play and jump in onto the campaign screen. Welcome to the campaign map for the Ottomans in EU4 with no DLC. Before I get started, a couple of things. First, apologies. This is my second attempt at recording this part of the video. What actually happened was I recorded the first part and the text was so small I couldn't read it, and I thought, well, you guys probably won't read it. So what I've actually done is I went out and I've now installed the Stellaris font mod. So hopefully the text will be bigger, a little bit clearer, and so that when I'm talking about things, you guys will be able to read and follow it. The second point is for anybody who skipped the long introduction. I just want to reiterate, this is very much a series for new players or people thinking about taking on EU4 for the first time and don't want to buy all the DLCs. So there's going to be mistakes and probably even disasters. The gameplay will certainly be slower than what you would normally expect in a Let's Play on YouTube, and it's obviously going to be suboptimal. And I think it's also worth saying that when I play strategy games like this, I tend to be a bit intuitive, so there's probably not going to be much in the way of min-max gameplay anyway. Therefore, let's get down into it. And what you get whenever you start a new playthrough, you get this overview. I'm not going to read it, I'll just scroll this down for any of you who want to look at it. If you want to read it in detail yourself, feel free to pause the video. So we start with country. This is an overview of the country and the surrounding area. We've also got religion. I probably can look at this one. And having the Sunni faith gives us a chance, 100% chance for a new heir, and cavalry to infantry ratio plus 10%. Personally, I've got absolutely no idea what that is. And we've got piety ranges from mysticism to legalism. I think that has quite an important impact on your economy. The next tab actually talks about the Ottomans actually play as a monarchy. More importantly, down here now you can see that your government is augmented by estates of the realm, and this is new since the Dharma update for no DLC play, in the fact that estates are now part of the base game. And then we've got environment here. It gives you an idea of what the historical background to Europe. So what we can do is just close, and here we are on the campaign map, or we can see it anyway. Where to start? And I think this is what hits anyone who plays any strategy game, to be honest, but I think Paradox games are totally in a different league, in the sense that the interface can be very intimidating. And what do you do? Well, there is a set path, and I think if you watch Let's Plays made by people who are a lot better than me, you can pick that path up. Also, Quill18 does a very good tutorial for Castile for no DLC, and he talks through a lot of the game mechanics in detail, which is great if you want to learn how to play the game. But one tip I want to give you guys straight away, if you want to learn to play the game, yes, get an idea for the basic first steps of the kingdom you want to play, but just get in and start playing. You will make mistakes, but that's the way it is. And if I zoom in, you can see that every kingdom is made up with regions or provinces, is the EU4 parlance. We've got a couple of armies and a navy here. And if you look here, as the Ottomans, we're the green patch here. We occupy most of Asia Minor, and one of our early targets is going to be over here. And over this side, well, we've got we're pushing up down to Greece and Athens. We've got a little bit left of what's Constantinople there, which is going to be another early target. Now, for anybody who's totally new to the game, you've got all this impressive list of stats across the top. And to be honest, when you first go in, yes, you need to know them, but just let them grow on you. I mean, to run through them very quickly, obviously we've got the treasury at the front. This is very important. Cash helps you build the empire. And then we've got manpower. Manpower relates, as it says here, to being able to reinforce your armies. It also relates to recruitment. If you don't have manpower, you can't recruit. And the next one is sailors, and it's the same with navy. And you've got stability here, which has quite a big impact on your efficiency of your faction. And then corruption, there's also inflation, but it doesn't show up here. Prestige gives you bonuses, so building your prestige up is quite important. Legitimacy, I'm not too sure about this. It says legitimacy is a measure of how legitimate monarchs are perceived by their subjects, and I think this actually has an effect on diplomatic and rebellion. Rebellion is a big factor in EU4. Then we got power projection here. Power projection is very much about how you influence and how you intimidate people around you, and you get power projection by fighting wars. As power projection increases, what you actually get is you get increases in what's called diplo power, which I regard as the three other currencies of the game. A bit more explanation of that. On the end here, you've got merchants, which at the moment we have none. We have two, but then it says none there simply because the game has auto deployed them for me. We've got no colonists at the moment. We've got 3 diplomats over here. Diplomats are very important for, well, the diplomatic game. And we've got a missionary. We're not going to do much with the missionary at the moment. Here opens up a whole laundry list of new menus. And so we've got cult, government, diplomacy, economy. And for any of you guys who have some familiarity with the DLC, I will show you this at the end here to illustrate a point. This is the military screen, and for any of you guys who play with DLC, you see that the professionalism bar is missing. I don't know what DLC that's actually introduced with. This is one of the big factors when you play with no DLC. There are elements missing from the menus, and some of those elements are things which make it easier to play. Probably the best way to explain that is if I come to here, you will see there's some tabs missing here. Now I know these tabs relate to some automation of the diplomats and diplomacy, but you can see these are missing. I can't say exactly what they are because I don't know what they are, but this is the build screen, so you can call this the management menus, these the build menus. Now, having done that quick overview, what I suggest is if you want a more in-depth overview of what all those screens means, again I recommend watching Quill 18's Castile campaign. He goes through it, but be aware that that tutorial is nearly a year old, and the way EU4 DLC comes out, Let's Plays and tutorials age very quickly. I'm expecting this to be out of date within a year or even 6 months. So if you're watching this a year in 2019, be aware that if a new DLCs come out, things will have changed. I think I've rambled on long enough. What I am going to talk about now is these tabs or warnings. Red means you need to do this immediately. Green is advisory. There's also yellow tabs or information tabs, which often relate to communication from allies and enemies. And of course the first tab here is red. It says we don't have enough rivals. The way the rival screen works is that to get the maximum benefit for power projection up here, you actually need to have up to 3 rivals. Although you can't always have 3 rivals, because you can only rival other factions which are the same size as you or roughly the same size as you. And the process of rivaling says that these are people that I hate. They don't hate me. I mean, if you can see, we've got Hungary. So if I come and right click on Hungary, right click for diplomacy, left click for thing, although it doesn't always work. Anyway, you can see it. They hate us 138. So these guys are never going to be friends with us. You can see they've already rivaled these here. So what we're going to do is just click in here and we're going to rival Hungary right out the back. And for some reason England has rivaled us. I've got no idea why that England would want to rival us. I mean, anything, well, you all know where England is. I can't see any point in rivaling England back. I think we're going to rival Lithuania. Now we can be a bit sneaky here because there is an event in the early part of the game where Poland gets a personal union over Lithuania, so we could actually lose this initial rivalry quite early, and then we'll be able to rival someone else. It's important to recognise that a lot of action have time limits on them, so you do something and then you can't do it immediately and you've got to wait. And of course we're going to rival the Mamluks because they are down here, and we're certainly going to want to expand this way. We've now actually done our rivals, and if you come up here now you see that our long-term rivals, and that actually now gives us bonuses because we've got a power projection of 1. Now this will tick up over time. It says there we get +1 due to having rivals, so our power projection will rise. Now the next thing we need to do is diplomacy. I've got a strategy worked out, and I think I'm not claiming originality for this strategy because I think I've seen this with quite a few other people. And what I want to do is take out Castile very quickly, and of course we're going to need to take Constantinople very much early in the early game. So what I'm going to do is going to come here, covert actions, and I want to build a spy network here because in order to attack Constantinople we actually need a claim on them. As you can see here, we've got a request conquest casus belli against Albania, which is here. We're also protecting or guaranteeing Ragusa, which is here. Not sure why, but that's the way it goes. And you can also get an overview here, and you can actually sort these like they've got no friends. These are our enemies, so you can see who doesn't like us. Of course, they're rivals. They're our neighbours. It shows who's near us, how much they like us, who dislikes us. And up here we've got Crimea. The downside with Crimea is that if you get an alliance with Crimea, you actually get into a little bit of a trouble. But what I would like to do, I don't know if these guys will take. I think what I'd like to do is improve relations with these, because what I'd like to do is possibly vassalize these. And okay, maybe we will get an alliance with Crimea. They're going to get us into a war. Now the next comment's going to be aimed at any of you guys who have been following my Total War series. Compared to Total War games, EU4 has a very strong diplomatic component, and this is an element of the game you do need to work on. But playing as the Ottomans, you can just get away with knowing the basics. That is enough I can do diplomatically for a specific reason, in the fact that I don't have any more diplomats, plus you can only do one diplomatic action per day. So until this diplomat comes back, I can't do anything anyway. And the next thing I need to do is, well, I'll show you the economy. We've got a very strong economy. We're earning 4.87 gold there, and we got the army maintenance. I could drop the army maintenance a smidge, but I do want it. But what I could do is I want to drop these forts to save a bit of cash. I mean, this is a little bit of a risky strategy. I'm sure there's a fort there. I mean, could drop a fort there, and that will actually improve my economy a little bit. That gives us 5.87. And what I want to do is point some advisors. So we're going to have here, actually if I go back, you will see here you've got a very good leader. Now these numbers here relate to how quickly we earn admin power, diplomatic power and military power. So we obviously need to push this up, and one way to do that is to recruit advisors. I certainly want this guy. Now there's 3 levels of advisors, but when you start you can only really ever recruit 1. That's going to give me morale. Morale is very important because it's morale that wins and loses battles. And we've got diplomatic relations, improved relations. Skilled politician, our government representative. I think we're just going to go with that. Yeah, I think that might be useful. I know some of you guys will say, well, what are you doing there? Yearly inflation, missionary strength. Well, we're just going to go with this. And recruit him. And as you can see now, we're getting 10, 8, 10. Now, if you're playing with the DLC, there's a button here to set a focus, which is not available without the DLC. There we convert small province, national decisions available. Yep, we need to do this. We're certainly going to take that. These decisions are often related to when the lifetime of your leader. So when your leader dies, you need to come back and actually redo these. Certainly want that there. Missionary strength versus heretics. Not particularly that good there. Now this is one of the first key decisions. This is where I said that these are the new currencies, because while these lead towards technology, you also need them here. I kind of like the idea of this national manpower modifier, so I think we're going to go with that. The technology, you've only got 3 technologies. It's linear in the way it goes. You don't select any options, you just keep adding to the level. The first one obviously relates to admin and affects your economy. This is your ability to maintain diplomacy, and this one actually relates to military there. And you get all sorts of penalties and things which I'm not going to even try to talk about at this part. I think that's about as far as we go. Oh, well, one other thing, sorry for everything being a bit joint. Now we've got missions here, and what I want to do is go for this mission and this mission immediately, because the first one gives us claims on here where we actually want to take. This one, it gives us more morale and land maintenance modifier, and then eventually I want to work to here to actually take Constantinople. I think we can actually unpause the game. I'm just going to go up to level 2. What I want to do now is build up my armies to fulfill those missions. So someone's actually got a casus belli against us. That's okay. I'm just going to pause so we can talk. Now, armies are made up of infantry, cavalry, and cannons. Cannons are not available until later in the game. And everyone consists of 1,000 men. And what I want to do is recruits here. And down the bottom here is the force limit. You can go over the force limit, but if you go over the force limit, you actually pay a penalty. And I think what I want 2, 3, 4, there, and I think about one. No, I have 3. Right, one more. That actually brings the army up to my force limit. And we're just going to run there. What have we got here? Royal marriage offer. Yep, accept that. So we're just improving relations. I think what we'll do at the moment is I think I'm just going to hang on to the diplomat for the moment while we're moving through here. And simply because invariably, well, whenever I declare war, I end up not having a diplomat to actually declare the war. Now, something you need to remember is that if you move over this area here, you will see where is it? Why can't I see it? You should be able to see the supply limit for the army. Well, you can do it this way, and down here, I mean, there's all sorts of stats here. There's the supply limit there, 20. This is there. They tell us about the events of the surrender of Lorraine. That is an event between France and England. The truce will expire, and we're now here. So just 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think you can go there. Now, when you recruit troops, these. No, I don't want you there. You go there. Just going to build these armies up. Not sure why. I think maybe normally you can mouse over and actually see the force limit. Maybe you only get that when you're actually at war. And we've just joined this up, and of course we've now fulfilled missions. Bring this army up here, and what we're going to do is click this one. That gives us the claim on this area here. You can see here we've now got the claim, a permanent claim on this province. And the other thing we're also going to do here, and that will give us the extra bonus there. Right, and we're just going to merge this up. Now I want to go to war, but sorry, apologies again for actually pausing, but I think it's quite important. And what I want is a war leader. Now, Ottomans start with a very good leader, and we're going to give him here. And you can see that he's got 3 fire, 3 shock, 1 maneuver, 1 siege. But what I would like to do is recruit a second leader, simply because having leaders in charge of your armies, or generals is probably the correct term, makes a big difference when you're fighting. Sorry for the reference for back to Total War, but I feel the need to put it in context for any of you who play Total War games. I know some people say, oh, well, you don't fight the battles in Paradox games, especially EU4, but in so many ways you do fight the battles, because preparing your army, having the morale is everything, getting the quality of the troops. There's also lots of detailed things called combat width. Also, choosing the terrain you're going to fight on, having a good leader, makes a big difference of how your armies can win. So if you throw an army which has no leader against another army of equal size with a good leader, you will lose, and that's all there is to it. So there is a lot to think about. So we're going to spend 50 on that to get a new general. Wow, this guy's, well, I don't think fire is particularly that good early in the game, but we got maneuver. That means this guy will be able to move quicker. Right, I think that's about it. We've got a native there, so what we're going to do now is actually declare war, and we're going to claim here. They've got an ally here. I don't know who their ally is. Ramazan. And we are now at war, and we're going to get this army in straight away. I mean, one way to find out who's at war with us. Oh, it's these guys down here. Okay. And I don't think we can actually get through here. So I think if we come here, let me just see if I can get military access. Yep, they're going to grant us military access because we're making friends with them. Just get back to here. At the moment we're not at war. I'm kind of a bit inclined to get in here straight away and bash these guys up immediately. What I am going to do is split a couple of units off and We're going to come in here. You can siege that down. Now it's the Ottomans have that as their Austria. So Austria has now rivaled us. Okay, thank you. And you call your allies to war. Well, I don't really want to call the allies in because, well, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I get the impression is if you call in allies, they effectively call in favours. Where are you going? Going here. So I think we're going to send that army that way. I don't want these guys slipping in behind us. Yeah, so, and I can win this war by myself. I don't actually need my allies in, and I've forgotten what I was actually going to say. Yeah, oh yeah, and what I do need to do is something which I wish they'd put a tab in. Oh, we can't raise war tax. Don't have enough. We need, so we've got to wait to get some war taxes. I think what I'm going to do is just pump that up a little bit. And they've got an army here, which is going to come through. And we got 3% war score. If you've never fought a battle in EU4, the objective is to get to 100% war score. This is quite a strong characteristic of here. Right, these guys are locked, so we should be able. Nope, they're going to get away. Oh. Okay, see if we can get one of these armies down here. This is where the strategy comes in. You've got to try and catch these. Right, we've got these guys, we've got them on 11 to them. You can see the fact that the general has made the difference. Wow, this is going to be a little bit tight. And we actually won. These guys are now retreating. And that, I mean, that was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. And what we're going to do is just keep. Right, they're arriving there. So, nope. Okay. Haha. I think they're retreating that way, so hopefully we will catch some of their armies in here. And this is part of the strategy. I'm not claiming to be an expert on it. Claims fabricated. Right, got a stack white there. I think we're not going to worry about this little army here. I think what we can do is just get in and siege the forts. The key strategy for winning battles is capturing your war goal, which we got here. And I think if I click here, you can see here we've actually got a ticking war score because I've got the war goal. Just going to pause so that I can talk about this. So capturing your war goal is very important. Also capturing forts. I think what we're going to do is actually demand here. So certainly going to want that and that. And eventually we're going to want that there, because I'd love to take these out at the same time. Apologies, I've just had to stop because I've had a bit of a cough. And just to run across these at the top, it tells us we're at war. We've actually got this area here, so we can actually now raise war taxes. That will put us back into the positive, so we're not going to lose money. And we've got a tiny amount of money coming in. War taxes is quite useful to have. What else we got here? It tells us we're blockaded because they've got navies here. Now I'm not going to send my navy out because it's pretty weak and I don't really want to lose it. Truce will expire, national decisions available. Well, we've got nothing else there. I mean, some of these won't go away at all, so I think we can get back to the battle. And I think what I need to do is siege out these areas here. And right, we've got lots and lots of tile. Let's just have a pause. Sorry. This here, land fortification expert discovered, gain skill. Local defensive. I don't think I actually need that because this means I'm going to get a new advisor and I can't afford them anyway, so I think we'll just take that. And just to show you how sieges work, you click on the army. Nope, not the army. Oops, claim fabricated. Yes. Okay, they've fabricated. I actually fabricate. Sorry. Right, we're going to fabricate a claim on Constantinople. We need that. I'm going to leave my agent there, or diplomat there, not agent, so that we can get some further claims down here. If you get extra claims on someone you want to invade, that actually reduces the costs of when you actually complete the conquest. Anyway, back to This is the actual siege. We're sieging a fort here, which means it takes longer. I mean, this sub area went down very, very quickly, and I think we can just leave that army there so that it doesn't suffer that much attrition. Sorry, I'm digressing, guys. But you can see the way sieges work is you get these ticks, and as you go round, these are the defenders, we're the attacker. And what will happen is that you can see here at the moment we're not being blockaded, so this is going to be quite a long battle. We're actually rolling at 12, but we're actually getting some good rolls here, so that is actually coming down very, very quickly. We've got this army here is actually for some reason is trying to siege down our capital at the moment, but it's red there saying they don't have enough forces to do it, but it's the AI being the usual idiot. And I think this one's not making such good progress. And we've got 20% war score, and just have a quick look. Yeah, we haven't got anything yet. I mean, I say this is a relatively good starting battle, especially for a new player, and so we're just going to come here. Yeah, we're up to 29%, so there's a good chance that this area will fall very quickly. Strangely enough, Crimea has not declared war on anyone, which is quite rare. Normally Crimea has a go at somebody up here. Maybe because I'm now in a war, they decided to wait until I finished my altercation before we actually do anything. So we're just going to let this run for the moment. Else we're losing money again. I mean, I could be cheeky and drop a fort, but that may not be such a good idea. Now, a quick tip on cash. You can get loans, so you can go below. You won't lose the war if you go to negative money. You obviously do that. So we've actually got this siege now. Got 74%. And just to show you, come here. Now, we could effectively piece these guys out separately, but they probably won't take it. Oh, they will take it a separate piece. Shift like that. So we could actually piece these guys out separately and just take them. Okay. So they're now out of the war. I think we're just going to come over here. Sometimes to win wars, you've got to win battles. And by doing that, I can actually core this area here straight away. And coring is a process by effectively saying that this land is now part of the Ottoman Empire. I'll do it, and we've got these guys here. Beating these up gives us control. Right, and let's see. By improving relations with these guys here. I mean, actually build spyware. Are they ready yet? No. No, we can't do an alliance because we're at war. I think what I fancy doing here is we're at war, royal marriage representings. Kind of inclined to build a spy network here just to get a Cassius Belli on here. Just going to play this out, and I'm aware of the length of time on this video, so what we'll do is we'll fight out this war and I'll show you the consequences of that, and then that's where I'll wind the video up. Right, we can convert, we've got national decisions available. Don't think that's actually changed. I mean, you can dismiss these, but I think at the moment we've got a bit of provincial unrest down here, but at the moment we're not getting any rebels, so yeah, they're both 0%. Unrest is something there. I mean, we could get stability. I mean, we could spend 129. I actually quite like the idea of that. And just have a quick check on the tech side. And yeah, the technology is building up quite well. This is one of the advantages of playing the Ottomans. We've got 100%. And just going to pause. We don't have a diplomat. We're just going to call this guy back from Valencia. You have to wait 3 days. And see, we want everything. And we're just going to take all their cash. This national epic, our subjects are taken to telling tales and legends about our old ruler. The legend says that Ottoman's darkest hour, we will return to our nation and deliver from well. We're going to lose 24 ducats, 5 prestige. It's only 10 admin power and 24 ducats. Prestige is probably a little bit more difficult to gain, isn't it? We're losing prestige. I think we're just sacrifice the admin power. I'm sure some of you guys will have a different opinion on that. Right. You now have information the diplomats are presenting. Numerous agents assisted reducing the size of our spy network. Yep. So we've now got separatists in Kenmatsu. I think for the moment we're just going to leave this army here. What I'd like to do is move this army down to here in preparation for our war here. We've suffered casualties. Our corruption is growing. We've got a bit of a cash problem, and I think we can fix that. Again, we're going to be at peace, and our next target is going to be the Byzantine Empire. So I think if we take down, that actually means we're making a little bit of cash. I think we're going to take a chance on there, and of course we need to make the cores, and this is going to use up my admin power again, but coring is very, very important. And of course what you want to do is not, once you fight a war, looks like they're having a go here. Once you're fighting a war, what you do need to do is consolidate what you've done in one war before you start the next war. Being overeager can be quite devastating in EU4. I'll actually just show you the trade power screen just to wind this video up. This is the trade screen. Now, this is probably one of the most intimidating overview screens of the game. You can see here, you've got all these lines here. What you actually have is every faction has a trade node. Ours is in Constantinople, and then you have these other nodes flowing in. And the moment my agents are, or merchants, sorry, not agents, are deployed at Aleppo here, and I think is it Alexandria down here. And what these merchants are doing is pushing trade power from this node up towards Constantinople here. A very simplified objective of trade in EU4 is quite literally what you're trying to do is push as much wealth and trade towards your home trade node where you actually can make some money. So at the moment we've got 50% of the trade power, and the way to look at this is trade value. So at the moment 90% of all the trade that's coming through here is staying in this node, which means that there's a total of 8.16 gold, or ducats, let's call it ducats, why not? So there's 8.16 ducats available in this node for collection or making money. You can see we've got 2.21 incoming, and we got minus 1.87 going out, and that is flowing up in this direction towards there. I mean, you can see all the detailed stats down here, and what I actually get is just over 50% of the share of the pie. So under the current trade power, I get 50% of 8.16, which means more than 50%. There's all sorts of stats here and bonuses. You can see here trade power plus 25%, and so I'm getting 4.91 ducats from this trade node. And of course, the more of this area I actually own, the better. That's a very brief overview here. The corruption is growing. I think we need to see if we can get. What I want to do is just. So it's actually dropping, so get it a bit lower. Yep. So we're making a bit of cash. I'm not sure if this actually auto adjusts this month to reduce corruption by we pay. Yep. So that corruption will eventually drop. I mean, the corruption at the moment here is there, and that's okay. We got provincial unrest. I think, yeah, we got 10.1% there. But once we've actually got the core finished, at the moment we got 3 cores. There's not much else we can do at the moment. I think what we can do is send our agent over here, improve relations with Crimea. I mean, eventually they're going to get us into a war. We've got lost a. Why have we got too few rivals? So that's actually telling me that I've got too few rivals. I don't understand that. Let's pause this again. Competent diplomacy. I'm putting on some efforts to communicate to your peers. Hard work, so improve relations. Oh no, sorry, I've missed one there. So yeah, I think what's happened is exactly what I said was going to happen, in the sense that if we probably come up to here, you'll find that Lithuania has now become the junior partner under Poland. So we can't rival them anymore, because what's actually happened is the ruler of Poland has now taken over Lithuania. I mean, I'd like to actually rival Poland, actually. Can't see the point of, yeah. Although, they don't like us. We make friends with them. I think I'm actually going to rival Austria, I think. Because they hate us. And my spy network here is a bit broken. So, I think what we're going to do is recall this guy, because he got discovered. That's why he was red. So we're just going to let this run. And he's now free, right? And I think what we're going to do is, I mean, okay. Ooh, tempted. I think we're going to offer an alliance with Poland. I think that could be quite a powerful thing. It's just going to let the game run. And we're going to wait till the 9th of April, and let's improve that. That could be very useful to have Poland on our side as an ally. That would be fantastic. The cores are going through quite quickly. I do want to get these cores finished before I declare the next war. We're making a little bit of cash. I want to build up a little bit of a war chest. I think this is looking pretty good, guys. What I'm going to do is call it here for the video, because the video's gone quite low. Okay, so we've now got a new heir. The succession is safe. I'm just going to pause the game while I do the outro. This is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. In the next part, we will go to war against Constantinople and start to get into the depth of this mini Let's Play. It'll probably be between 5 and 10 parts long. I don't want to drag this out because Ottomans is pretty simple, but this is definitely where I'm going to stop. So hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.